Hey everybody, Paul Foster here with Second Hand Productions, and today this is our 7th episode of My Indie Life, and I'm really grateful to be able to be here with you on Sunday. We came at it a little bit. Oh, hey. I got audio playing in the background, so y'all just bear with me. I'm going to kill that audio. All right, here we go. So today's kind of a cool day because this is our 7th episode of the My Indie Life series, which is Sunday afternoon. We come together, we talk about a specific subject. Maybe we review a short film early on, but then we have just overall just a general film discussion about things like. And today our discussion is what to do with bad shots. Everybody has bad shots. I have bad shots. I'm sure you guys have had shots that you wish you could take back in your projects. And this goes beyond just indie film. This is in general. This is if you're doing skits for YouTube, if you're trying to do some kind of polished production on YouTube, or you're actually filming short film, or you're filming a feature, sometimes what was going through your ears when you thought of the idea, or when you were trying to go from script to principal photography, and then from there to post-production. Once you get to post-production, it didn't quite work the way you wanted to. Sometimes, especially in the indie film, you end up with you only have one camera. So say you're shooting sides, or you have multiple setups that you want to get, and you have to redo each scene over and over and over again. And so what happens is when you're dealing with amateurs or non-actors, non-professionals, so on and so on, you're not dealing with SAG, you've called your friends in, you guys have this cool idea. What happens is you shoot everything from one side, and then you flip the camera around and you get the other side, and then you find another creative angle and you get the master. That's the most basic way to shoot a scene, where they call it to get sides, and then you got a master wide angle shot or some other shot. Now, when you get into more advanced kind of setups, you'll shoot sides, but a lot of times, and there are filmmakers out there, if you have multiple cameras, they will shoot two different focal distances from the same side in the same take. So in many cases, like you have, say you have two cameras. So we're going to have our basic discussion between Bob and Jane as our fictional characters. And what we do is say we do an off-shoulder shot of Bob talking to Jane from Bob's side. And then we do a tight shot of Bob just stand alone from frame, and we have two cameras set up on the same side at two different focal distances. This way you can cut into a tight for more personal information or something more significant, or you can go off shoulder for something that's a little bit more like less open to the public. A lot of times the off shoulder shot is considered like I got a secret, whereas the tight shot is more of a one view. You got the actor right in front of you. He's kind of talking, not necessarily to the camera, but in the general direction, vicinity above or to the side of the camera. And then you flip around, and then you do the same thing for our Jane Doe. And then you would find a nice creative way to get a master and the master really, for all purposes, is intended for establishing the overall scene. How the characters came to where they are, whether they're sitting at a table in a diner. Did one of the characters walk into the shot? Maybe you're following the character to the table. That's always an interesting thing. They always talk about how, like, to make it interesting, you could start with the shot following a waiter who has just picked up some meals and is going to be walking to a table, and that waiter then walks past our subjects are cast at their table, and he kind of hands the camera off to them, and it's a more interesting way. So you could be like following the waiter, and then he walks right past them, and then you settle in on them. Maybe he walks and turns, and then boom, we stop. The camera doesn't follow the waiter; he stops on the actors, and that's just an interesting way to do a master and set up a master shot. And then you can do sides. So that's kind of like a long way to get sidetracked into what our discussion is today, but I'm really interested in what happens when you're shooting sides and you only have a single camera, and maybe one side or the other, or maybe just the master shot as itself just is not very good. Now, I recently had a project last year where me and a friend it was kind of almost like guerrilla filming. And we went into this project. We were shooting a wedding. I at that point had never filmed a wedding, and he had shot, I believe, one wedding. And the idea was that when he comes in, when we started shooting this, when we were shooting the ceremony itself, it was mostly tripods, monopods. There's a little bit of motion just on the monopod because we're trying to be mobile. It wasn't enough room, and I didn't want to get into the master. I had a tripod set up shooting the master shot of the entire ceremony. It just ran from beginning to end. It came in, we set it down right as soon as the wedding party all came in, and the bride was led up to the to meet the groom. And then we ran out, set that tripod in the middle of the aisle, got the wide angle. And then from there, we had two sides because I was really interested in getting a nice tight shot of her and him as they did their vows. Now, one side, we hid the other tripod behind a kind of like a little barrier, so it was shielded, and our main camera wasn't going to pick it up. And so that was a fairly steady shot. Christian pretty much his main goal with that was to just track her, make sure we had our focal distance set. I think we were shooting her with an 85 millimeter prime, and we had our focal distance set. She was good to go. He just had to make sure that subtle adjustments as she kind of rocked, she moved, she reacted to what the presider of the ceremony was saying. She's reacting to her husband. We want to make sure we capture those moments because there was going to be little nuggets of gems in there. Me, on the other hand, I was actually hiding behind the bridesmaids with a monopod, which wasn't as stable, right? And in that case, my goal with the 35 millimeter prime was to capture the groom's reaction. And I needed to do that from pretty much right behind the maid of honor. And so I actually had to get down on my knees, and I had to have the camera sitting there pointing right at him. And I liked it because they had this arch there with some flowers and decorations on it. And I was able to kind of like focus on him, and you had this out of focus flowers, kind of like, it's almost like I was peeking through, I was spying on him. And we were able to capture really cool moments. Now, my footage, unfortunately, I'm sitting there, I'm like sitting on my knees, the monopod, I'm half holding it halfway up. So my footage had some motion in it. There's a part where he leaned down to kiss a small girl on the forehead and give her, and I was like frantically trying to adjust so I knew this was going to be a significant moment. So we wanted to capture that. I didn't care if it was shaky. I didn't care. What I did was I grabbed that moment because I knew it was important. It was significant. I knew it was coming. So I tried to, real quick, you got to drop the monopod, kind of get into position. And so there's motion in that shot. And there are other areas where the monopod just wasn't as stable as a tripod or a stabilizer or a Steadicam or some held hand gimbal of some sort would have been. Then you fast forward and we get to the reception. Now we're freehand. There's no mono because you're free flowing through trying to capture as much as you can in real time. So we were both using just going handheld. There's not enough room for us to be running around with big stabilizers or Steadicam vests or anything. And we had the 35, I think we were running with the 24 and the 85. So we kind of took turns grabbing different things. What I like about working with Christian Allen, who's a good friend of mine, is when we're filming stuff, it's almost the footage is very similar in style and approach. And so that makes it, when I get into post-production, it's really a nice fluid transition between the shots. There's not going to be a ton different, there's not going to be a complete departure from one. Like you look at all his footage and you go, oh, well, that's, Christian is really good about knowing what you want to get with that camera and then going out and accomplishing that, knowing what with the target of the bigger target and the bigger picture in mind. So, but when we got to the reception, it was really shaky. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, even the stuff that we meant for it to be very steady, the B-roll pickups of the food and, and I'll admit, Christian's shots were probably were considerably more steady than my shots. My shots were pretty crazy as I was running around. But this stuff happens. So the idea here is that what you want to do is now you get into post and you got to deal with this. And you can't go smooth, up, shaky, smooth. So there has to be an approach to your thought process. So I thought we'd watch this thing, and I want to share it with you. I'm going to pull it up. I have it currently, and I'll link it below so you can watch it separately. I want you to how we use the music, how I was able to use the song that was chosen by our bride. And I've only ever filmed one wedding. I helped another friend with another wedding. I was probably miserable at it. He's a great guy, and he tolerates me. I'm going to tell everybody right now, if you're a cinematographer and a filmmaker, to shoot a wedding is completely just a whole nother animal, because it's all live. You have to anticipate what's going to happen. There's a certain amount of prediction you can do. There's a certain amount of, hey, I know that they're going to do this, and you'll talk it out with the bride and the groom, and you'll have some ideas. And then there's a relationship you're going to have with the photographer, and you want to sort that stuff out, because I always kind of figured, it's like when I shot Shaylee and Sean's and Josh's, Shaylee and Josh, their McNamara's wedding, I just felt like the photography was more important. And so I was going to work around her as best I could, as long as she would allow me to get the master shots so that I could do my edit without having any major problems. So let me find this thing right here. And the idea is, what do you do with shaky footage? And I'm going to show you how we attack this problem. So over here, I'm going to go over here, and we'll go to, there are a lot of people live streaming right now, but that's cool. Now I'm going to take this. I need to throw this thing up on YouTube. I'm going to throw this live stream on Twitter. All right, let's see. There it is. All right, let's grab this guy right here. Let's throw this up on Twitter so everybody can see what we're doing. Let's see. Tweet. Oh, bear with me. We're throwing this. All right, so I'm gonna tweet that out. Let's put that out there for everybody, just for people that are running a little bit behind but wanted to join this live stream. We're gonna, if we get some people, maybe we bring somebody onto the panel. We can have a longer discussion about this. But for now, I'm gonna go find that video so we can talk about this. What really got me thinking about this is I was working on some stuff this week, and I realized that that this is like a pretty common problem for everybody. I always thought, man, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the one with a problem here, but it's not the case. I mean, it's just, this is a common issue. So I'm going to switch over. We're going to watch this in theater mode. So check this out. Y'all hang out here. We're going to switch go to our application. Boom. Go to that. All right. So here we have the Shaylee and Josh McNamara wedding. And right out the gate, I did this kind of racked focus to kind of like intro go into the wedding. And you can see now when you're working, I had this banding issue going on. And I'm not sure exactly what was going on. It had probably to do with the LEDs. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you work with shaky footage and you get into some stuff that you're not wanting to see, as you're going to watch right here, if you do a warp stabilizer, depending on how much shake is in the shot, how much detail is in the shot, hard edges and everything, you're going to end up getting some almost like shutter roll. Especially when you can see that little bit of a shutter shake. I slowed the footage down because the intro was really important for me. And then we cut to some more live streams. This was monopod. Once again, this one was a little bit easier. Now I had to stabilize this shot as well, but there was some shake. The monopod wasn't as stable for me as I had hoped it would be, and it could be because I hadn't shot weddings before, and these were people that I knew and cared about. I didn't want to screw this up. That would have sucked. So the song itself is what drives this story. If we're just watching, there's that master shot. And what we did is we framed that other camera over here. You can actually see the tripod leg right there. Now that I just now noticed that thing. Oh man, that's terrible filmmaking. So we roll up and they step up. And what's nice about this is here's that shot I was talking about. This is the monopod. Now I did have to stabilize it. You can see a little bit of shutter. So it's really important. Try to avoid having to use warp stabilizer if you can, in situations where you have a lot of detail, a lot of objects, a lot of things for it to have to adjust for, because you're going to end up with a little bit of a shutter shake. That's what I call it. You can call it whatever. But I thought this was a powerful shot and I wanted it. Then we have this great static, tripod shot of her. And so these are the two shots. Now, what happens, though, is when we fast forward and then we get to the reception, the way I handled this is we hit this key moment, right, in the reception. And because now we're going handheld, there's a considerable amount of shake, and I could not stabilize this. It just wasn't going to happen. So my approach was to shoot it like it was, or to edit and cut this together as if it were like home footage, like the family was shooting this, was watching this, and they were, it's like they had filmed it themselves, because I thought it had a little bit more. It made it more personal for them, and you can see the amount of shake that was in some of these shots. These are on the surface, these are just terrible shots by me, and this is probably Christian right here, a much more stable shot. This is probably Christian right here, another more stable shot. And it could be that I was just running around. I mean, I got some stable shots in, don't get me wrong, but some of these shots are just absolutely horrid, and I would say they're all done by me. But you get, by doing it this way, I in the edit, I'm able to go ahead and make this feel like it's a more personal kind of filming experience, or when they're watching it, it seems like it's more of a homemade film. And so when you turn on the audio for this, and now you can see the effect it has. Now all of a sudden that bad shake shot looks legit and personal and real. Now, I'm not going to drag Shaylee and Josh's wedding video all over the internet. But that being said, that was a good example of where, we could have done a better job. I could have done a better job had I had more experience in shooting weddings. Weddings are a tough thing to shoot. And I think that the important thing to draw from it is sometimes you're going to walk out of filming something and you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get. Maybe you thought, like as I did, I thought when we filmed this that we had a lot of good steady shots. And then when we got back, I realized how much shake was in the shots that I took. And then you have to get creative as an editor, and you have to kind of break that down and make it more, it's the best way to describe it. Let's get back here and make it to where you're able to work with the shot. Now I'll link this thing below, and it was a beautiful wedding, and it was a great couple, and I'm excited for them both. This happened. This was filmed last year. I had somebody recently ask me, how long does it take? And how long does it take to edit? I'm gonna pull up my questions, and the questions that I get asked periodically. One question was, how long does it take for me to edit something? And the answer to that question is, it depends on what you're cutting together. I mean, it depends on how how many setups you have, you know. So like if I'm running on a set where I've got, you know, 10 different setups for a scene, because there's going to be some serious movement and change in positions and angles. You know, it's a high action scene or high intensity scene, and I need the audience to feel that tension. Then I'm not going to, in most cases, and there's exceptions to every rule. Okay. But in most cases, I'm going to get a lot of different angles for things so that I have something to work with. We'll reshoot it 10, 15, 20 times if I have to, or if I have multiple cameras, we'll set those cameras up to capture from different angles. And that kind of, you know, that can take time. We got a train going by. That can take some time to get done. But when, you know, when you get into post, then it comes about time to tell the story, you know. And so when you talk about, like in the case with our short film, Bedtime, you know, Bedtime had some bad shots in it, you know, and once again, they're probably done by me. Uh, I had my good friend and our cinematographer, director of photography in Ty Jackson. I've worked with him on London, Texas. I worked with him on Bedtime. I've worked with him on In Plain Sight. We've shot multiple things together where we've had a chance to work together. And in that scenario in Bedtime, you know, I just had, you know, we had a couple shots that didn't quite work the way we intended. And a lot of times that happens when you stay up late, you run long days, and towards the end of the day, you just like, I just got to get it. I just got to get the shot. Just got to get the shot. And that's when you start sacrificing the quality over, or just getting the shot. And I think that's kind of what happened. Bedtime was supposed to be shot over about 3 or 4 hours one night here at our home. And it was just three actors. And it was really intended to just be something quick and relatively easy, not expecting a huge amount of headaches from it. But, you know, then we ran into problems. So we had to break in almost like two crews. So I had Ty Jackson going through, going upstairs, getting the final shots in the bedroom, in the daughter's bedroom, and then I took uh, Amber Johns downstairs, and she was in the master bedroom where we were shooting. We were basically shooting the mom scenes, and so I was getting those shots while he was upstairs finalizing the upstairs shots. And one of those upstairs shots was a bathroom scene, and the original footage, unfortunately, it's just once you get 3 or 4 people in that upstairs bathroom, some bathrooms, I mean, there's such little space there. It got cramped, and it was difficult to get the shot that we were looking for. And unfortunately, because of the tempo and the pace of this project, I couldn't have that much shake in this shot. It was supposed to be very calm and very steady. In that one particular shot, I brought the young actress back, um, and we reshot it. Sometimes you have to do that. You know, I mean, the important thing is to get the shot right. It's not sometimes. I know that a lot of indie filmmakers, you think once you get through principal photography, you're never going to have to reshoot anything. I have yet to have anything I've done that I didn't have to reshoot something. So just some food for thought for everybody out there. You know, if that's kind of your angle and what you think, you know, if you're not sure that you're going to have to, don't be afraid, I guess is this the point I'm getting at. Don't be afraid. If you've got it's better to spend the time to get the shot right than it is to rush through it sometimes and end up not wanting to use what you got, or not being able to use what you got because there's too much shake in the film. So whether or not they're shaking the footage, and once you get into the edit, it really just depends on how you plan on telling that story. So if I pull up Bedtime here, so we just went through the McNamara wedding, and it starts out, you heard the song, so it's very slow. And then once they get to, it's a very slow song, so they get through the ceremony. That's why it was really critically important that I was able to try and stabilize as much of that footage as possible in the beginning. But there's a point in that song, it's called I think it's called "I Want to Love You," and there's a point in the song where she kind of like there's key moment, and I want to find it because it's like really kind of. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. YouTube. I'll even link this song. This is a cool song. It is a Christian song. Let me see if this is it. There it is. It's by, I think it's Ruel. I Get to Love You is the name of the song. And so let's listen to the song, and then you think about the wedding in general. Hopefully you guys can hear this. When look at you, it's very slow. So you can see how you can't have like this heavy duty shake right in this moment. I can't believe it's true sometimes. I can't believe it. And then she goes in and she says, I get to love you. I get to love you. Now it picks up, and so now we can introduce some of the shakier moments of the footage. And there's a part in the music video. Just gonna go. Just gonna hit the chorus. Let's see if there's a point here. So once you get past the slower parts of the song and you get into the faster parts of the song, you can actually move the song. You can move the video at a faster pace, and you can introduce some of that shakier footage like I did. I want to see if they play this part because it was really important as far as the edit went. Here we go. So it's kind of like, I'm going to so get hit with a royalty violation on this one. I don't care. I mean, you can, I won't. You hear that? So when I heard this song, when Shaylee came to me and said, this is the song I want, I was just, it's a very powerful song, and it can really make your imagination go wild. And as far as how you're going to edit something, I have historically enjoyed editing to music more than I've enjoyed editing without music because it can drive the story. So, but once we got in to the body of this, if I go back to the video, I used a moment of joy between the two of them to hit that high point where she starts, when she says, let's see if I can play it again here. And then she's going to bring it down, and then we have the end. So when she does that part right back here in the video, so let's see right here. They say love is a journey. Now, if we go back and you watch the way I edited the wedding, these are moments that I used to capture him dancing with his mom, her parents dancing. Her dad was very emotional, and it was a big day for him. Her dancing with her dad, because you're letting the lyrics of the song line up with the emotions of what was going on that night, and it makes it that much more intense. Okay, so when you find a piece of music that has, you know, those kind of lyrics, and then you can cut your video to that, I think that's the marquee of like old school music videos and everything that's kind of like that to me is powerful. And that to me tells a huge story with no dialogue being spoken. So if we go back to, and I'm going to show you that part, just that part of the reception to let you draw your own connection. Let's see. I just clicked on the wrong thing. Dang it. I clicked on the wrong thing. So if I go back to, let's go here. This kind of goes to that question that starts, what do you do with shaky footage? How do you handle that in an edit? As well as answering the question I got this week about how long does it take me to edit a video? And it really just depends on the video. As I was saying earlier, if you got a scene that's got 13 setups, there's all kinds of stuff I can do with that. And it could take me weeks, if I'm just editing a YouTube, if I do my short reviews, I can do those in a couple hours, cut an entire short review together. I mean, those are scheduled out weeks in advance. And so I like them because I can give you scheduled content. I can crank out something and maybe it's got some good information in it. I hope, and it might be informative to the original filmmaker. It might maybe I'm completely off base. It's so, but the idea is that's roughly how long. I mean, it used to, on my other channel, I used to do the car stuff. It was a lot harder because I would do 2 videos a month if I could keep up with that pace. And the reason why is because I had to have a project. I had to execute the project, film the project, and film it from a lot of different angles. Then I had to go cut that all together and make it somewhat interesting, speed up the slow parts, focus in on the hot button items. And so that could take me 3 or 4 days to cut something like that together. So, and then finding the music that's going to fit, and when I edit film, it's tougher because I do not have a lot of times the music. Like when I'm working on In Plain Sight, I don't have music for In Plain Sight. That's coming at the end. I have to finish the work. I have to cut it all together, and then I have to hand it to somebody, and then they're going to provide the emotional highs and lows for me. Of course, I have a lot of input into that, but it's a different animal altogether. So if I go back and I share with you and just show you that one part of the project I did on for the McNamara's, where that song kind of hits that moment. Whatever may come, your heart I will choose. Whatever of you, I get to love you. Yeah, in that spot when they say love is a journey, I cut to him back at the wedding where he's kissing his daughter, and I just think it's a beautiful shot, So all that being said, I think I'm kind of getting sidetracked here in my mind. I'm losing my train of thought here, guys. Another project that had bad shake in it, I think we're going to switch over to, is where was it? What's Bedtime? So if I find Bedtime, which is somewhere in here, there it is. So we look at Bedtime, and we're going to watch Bedtime here real quick. I had planned on doing an actual review of Bedtime at some point in the future, but I haven't done that yet. So, but we're going to talk about, good shots, bad shots, and mistakes that people make, shaky footage, bad shots, and how you account for that. I'm going to show you a few bad shots in this project in Bedtime where I feel like I could have done better. So let's switch that over. Switch over to that. Application, here, share that. We're going to go present to everyone. All right. So Bedtime was a classic thing, and I really kind of wanted to go into it with this real creepy, music box. And this shot right here wasn't the best shot. I did this shot, half a dozen times because I had the camera on a slide and I was moving it along the shelf. And the timing on that was I wanted to make sure that she stopped, that I stopped the camera right to the, where she's offset left, right on the screen. And then, we come up with the bedtime on the left. Now,
what? You want to read another one? Okay. Well, which one do you want to
now,
read?
as you're watching this is a good example when you should, you really want to make sure that, especially when you're working with child actors that don't have an extensive amount of dialogue experience. So we went with 3 setups. We had 3 cameras set up. We had a camera set up to get his side. We had a camera set up to get her side, and then we had the camera to get the master. And then I came back and I did some B-roll pickup shots, and then Ty managed the main camera that was going to have any motion. One of the things I don't really care about this shot right here is the angle. It's lower, it's not higher, and I think we could have moved the camera over more to the left, got her a little bit more into the shot, and maybe kind of gone more from her perspective to him, and it would have filled in these dead spots. If we would have just moved the camera over to the left, about 30 degrees more to the left, kind of filled him in. Now, the one thing I will tell you, we were trying to avoid this right side of the room. We were trying to avoid the wall over there. And but lighting wise, we lit the ever living tar out of this room, and then in post I went in and set the mood. So because the cameras we were using a 70D, a 7D, and a 750D on the Canons, and we had a 35 and 85 and a 24 millimeter Rokinon Prime. And so because we were using these 3 cameras that were not the best low light cameras, and we want to make sure we were staying within their native ISO, shooting underneath 2K, and I wanted to make sure we lit the room. And Ty did a great job in making sure that room was lit perfectly, so we had good even lighting around the room, and then I could go in post and I could do my changes.
Okay. One last one is off the bed with you, all right?
So we move on. I really liked the 24 millimeter on her.
It was the same day in the jungle. All the animals were out playing. Come play with me, lion, said the cheetah.
And this is tricky because she's a child actor. So having these 3 sides, taking them all at once, that means I'm not asking her to recreate something she already did. She can, every time we do a take, she can just do that take however she sees that take, and then those 3 angles will encompass that entire take. And it would have been an editing nightmare to ask a young child to be able to be consistently delivering something similar on every take if we only had 1 camera. And that's a pickup shot I got later.
I don't want to play, said lion. I'll lose. Come play with me, lion, said the elephant. We can throw rocks. Pow, pow. Look, elephant. I don't want to play, said lion. Come play with me, lion, said the crocodile. It's a swimming competition.
Now,
splash, splash. Elephant and crocodile. Well, you haven't brushed your teeth yet, have you? Uh-huh. All right. You better go ahead and go get that done, okay?
Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I love the story, but the break away from the story to him realizing she hadn't brushed her teeth, and then you see her she's looking at somebody over here, right? This is Jeff Martin. He's a very talented guy. He's a lot of fun to work with. He's been he was in The Runners by Michael Lyons. He was in No Man's Land by Michael Lyons. He was in Unwanted by me. And him and his wife came over, and he played the father to young Bailey Blaylock here. Bailey had worked with, she had been an extra in our London, Texas project. and she was just a tiny thing at the time, and she kind of got drowned out by another kid. You couldn't see her in the shot, and so I figured she had the right look and the right age, so we brought her in to do this. But when people talk about good footage versus bad footage, here, this is a great shot. And she's going to walk out of the room. Now, here's the shot we had to redo. And even in the redone shot, you can see shake. There's shake in here. Ideally, I would have liked this to have been a lot more steady because that tension, and you can see I did stabilize it. Did you see the warp? Here, right there. The tension that gets built by having shake in your camera it makes the audience think something's going to happen right in that moment. So now,
that's good. No, there either.
But back to her, and here's another part where being a quick short film, I didn't plan out very well. I think for some reason this would have been better served had I not done this. That would have been good. Even if I just show him heading downstairs or leaving the room, I kind of feel like he's able to get back to the TV really quick. Just a second ago, he was up in the room. So I talk about how you shouldn't have things go from one shot, where you don't have to show every step of the way. But sometimes when you're trying to make up distance and time, right, for the audience's mind to accept things, sometimes it's good. And so it would have been nice had I just showed him coming down the stairs, then cut back to her brushing her teeth. You can cut here. You can do a few other things. I could have edited it differently. It would have been fine. All right. So this was important. Now watch this bookcase right here. Okay, you see that? Did you see it? Watch the bookcase. I made a mistake. You see this? Watch when she shuts the door. And I'll tell you how I fixed it. All right. What is sitting on the bookcase? Yes, that is my matte box cover to my rig. I don't know what I was thinking. I never even noticed it was sitting there until I went to go edit. At that point, there's no way I can bring her back. So my solution was to do an adjustment layer and do kind of like a vignette where the brighter areas around the door, the darker areas away from the door. And the idea is your focus is going to be on her and in the brighter areas. And you're not going to notice that I left the matte box on the bookshelf. So now that was probably the biggest mistake I made in this project. But I like this. That door would have shut. She did it. This Amber Johns was awesome. She having not a ton of acting experience.
I don't know if he was watching out or what, but wasn't able to get a double.
Okay.
Here's another part I didn't like. Her calling daddy. It was we had her kind of record that separately, and it would have been better if I had her up in that room and yelling for dad, and recorded it from down here. It would have been a lot more believable.
I'm coming.
Right here, we put one of my 160s, kind of like in front of her, and we lit it low just so we had this nice even light on her face because this tablet was not on. And obviously, the music is all added in post. The way we framed this was intended to be her off the right. She thinks she knows she has no reason to doubt what's going on in the house, so she can see what's in front of her. And then we backlit her with this light over here on the right. I think it's a beautiful shot. I think it works.
All right, I'll bed with you. I can't. Why not?
This is where you talk about when you get into when we originally shot this. He walks into the room, he walks up to the bed, he stops, and then they have this dialogue that you're watching play out here. And when I went into the post production, I realized that's just not even realistic. It's not believable. I'm having a hard time believing that this is what he's doing. No father would have just walked in and walked all the way to the bed and just stopped. So I asked Jeff to come back, and it took us a few shots to get this, but I basically gave him a goal. I set toys on the floor and I said, look, I want you to come in. We're going to track you with the camera, and I want you to pick up the toys off the floor while you're talking to her. All right. So he came in, and I think I had to bring Bailey back in on a Monday. We shot it on a Friday night. I brought Bailey back Monday night to shoot her in the bed, with the covers over her head. And then I shot Tuesday night. He came back, and we spent about 45 minutes getting this shot, which I think works out a lot better. I like the shot. I like the fact it feels natural and that he's actually interacting with his environment while they're having this exchange.
Hey, there is nothing under your bed. Or is there anything in your closet either?
I like that. You noticed the door was open.
Okay. If I look one more time, do you
see?
Promise to go to bed?
This is important. All right.
If I look one more time, do you promise? Okay.
So when you talk about film, and we're talking about film theory and the rules of film and what things mean, now you talk about when this actor is now on the right side of the shot, he's looking, he cannot see. I mean, he's on the right side, he's on the edge, right? And so that means that he can't see what's in front of him. He cannot see what's coming. And that was shot intentionally like that because he's got this thing that's about to happen and he has no idea what's coming. So that's a clue to the audience that he doesn't know what's coming. So, and what's beautiful, he finishes his dialogue. He's at the bed now. And so we have this natural flow and the kind of like the motion and the energy and the direction that my actor's going. He's at the bed now, so he's not fiddling with his hands. He's not feeling uncomfortable or awkward, and he's able to kind of like go naturally transition from her saying, "Yeah, if you look under my bed, I'll promise to go to bed." She does nod, yes.
One more time.
And so now he doesn't see what's coming. But he looks under the bed. And it turned out there was a demon in his bed. Now, once again, we play the framing game. And now she is now framed on the left side, looking left, and cannot see what's in front of her. She's not sure.
Hun, was that you?
She heard some noise upstairs. If there's a shot I wish I could get back, it's the shot coming up. And this is just a byproduct of right here. I think if I would have had like a dolly or some kind of a setup or steady cam rigged setup, it was getting late. I think people were getting tired. It was getting close to midnight. I think what we should have done is we probably should have started the camera right here. Okay. Let her come out, get about to the couch, and then start moving backwards, filming her walking with the camera all the way. And that way you get some motion. Instead, I'm waiting for her to walk all the way through this room, right? She's got to walk all the way to the camera. There's not enough motion here to really justify this. And she's out of focus. Once again, kind of left screen, then we center her.
Yes.
And boom. And there you have it. And that is kind of like a technical breakdown of bedtime and how we ultimately shot that. Let's see. And we come back and there, I think I covered two projects where I feel like I could have done a better job. I covered short films. I covered just the overall general concession about you know, how you can attack a problem when you have shaky footage. Um, there's other projects I've done, other stuff I've worked on where it's just you have to kind of go with the flow on things. You have to be able to adjust, and you have to be able to make adjustments based off, and it could affect how you edit the final product. When we started, when we did London, Texas, we kind of went into it with a certain idea, and I promise you that final product looked nothing like the original idea. You kind of realize where your limitations are, what you can do, what you can't do in that time frame. So I hope you found this video useful. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for about an hour today. And if you like what you saw, definitely hit the like and bell button. That way you hit that bell button. That way you can see when we're going to have other stuff come out. And other than that, be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Secondhand Production Films. You can also follow me on Twitter at Paul_SHP. And if you have any questions or, just general questions or that you could possibly have, I don't know everything, but I do know a lot. And if you have any questions, you can definitely hit me up on Twitter, and I'll be happy to address them. If we start getting more questions in on Twitter or through our comments on the YouTube, we might start doing like a Monday mailbag. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't go away. There's all kinds of stuff coming. We got the second part of our matte painting landscape shot that we're working on. That's coming out this week. We're gonna finish that guy up and get that shot finished. And then we've got another short film coming this week. If you watched Hope and then you watched our review of Hope, definitely be sure to leave comments on Hope and let us know what you thought of that. And then coming this week, we have The Wrath of God, which is a short film by another student filmmaker. Excuse me. And this one was shot by a cinematographer, and visually it's very impressive in a lot of ways. But there's definitely always something to learn from these short films. So don't forget to watch that. I will put the links out this week. Watch The Wrath of God, and then come back and watch my take on it on Thursday. So until next week, I hope you guys have a great week, great holiday, and we will see you then. I'm getting back to work.